everyone, welcome back to my channel. As always, my name is Brittney, this is the Brittney Reacts Show, and on this show we go over daily movie news, different entertainment news. Today we have a lot of really interesting stories to go over. How is everyone doing? Today we do have to talk about that the voice actor for Mario since 1991 has retired, so we're going to talk about that. Also, there are rumors that it looks like Marvel could be looking to reboot the entire universe. I actually think this could be a big deal and a good thing. We're gonna talk about it. And I also have a video I want to share with you guys from the Film Theorist. They have a whole video they just released a week ago talking about how Marvel, DC, not just DC, but Marvel and Disney particularly, are in decline. And there's so many issues that they're facing right now, so I thought we would react to that video together because they brought up a lot of points that I've been bringing up in my videos as well, so I think it'd be a really interesting discussion to have just by reacting to that. How are you guys doing? Hi Shehem, hi Yellow Umbrella, hi Koharu, hi Amy, hi Som, hi Motion Going, hi CCG, hi everyone who's here, and thank you all for coming each and every day. Please subscribe to the channel so you never miss a live stream. Please make sure to like the video so that more people can find the live stream. And now let's just get straight into the news. So the first thing I do want to get to right off the bat, yesterday a couple of you guys did mention it in the chat, but Charles Martinet, who has been the voice for Mario in the video games and on a lot of projects since 1991, has just retired. Well, not entirely. He's stepping away from voicing the character, but he's still going to be a Mario ambassador. I guess that just means he's going to make sure that Mario's done well. But his voice is so iconic, everyone knows it around the world, so this is a pretty big deal. How do you guys feel about this? I know a lot of people online were already joking, like, oh, they're going to get Chris Pratt or something like that. I think Chris will just stick with being Mario for the movies, but I think for the games, they'll either A, find someone else, or there's a very, very possible dystopian option where they just use the AI voice replica of this guy and just use it AI for Mario, but I don't think we're there yet. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe we will be in a year, but we'll see. How do you guys feel about this? Yellow Umbrella says this man needs a break. I mean, he has been doing a lot of work for many years, so honestly, I don't blame him for wanting to retire and just, kick back for a bit. Mr. Pizza also is suggesting Chris Pratt. Yeah, I don't think Chris Pratt's gonna voice everything, guys. Josh Loves Movies says, this is so sad, however, at least he got a proper send-off in the Super Mario Bros. Movie as Jumpman, the first Mario. Yeah, it's really nice that, I guess it's all coming out at the same time, like we just had the Mario movie, and I wonder if now he's thinking, like, oh, the new generation has embraced it, now it's time for me to go. I don't know if that's what he's thinking, but it is, like, all, does seem like convenient timing. Joshua Munn says, I think, yeah, AI for Mario is a strong possibility. I think so too. I think within a few years I could totally see them doing that, which I think would make a lot of people angry, but I think they'll get over there's a possibility they could get over it. Like, if it just sounds like Mario, I don't know. As long as the voice is good, do you think people would accept an AI Mario, or do you just want them to, like, I think they will find another voice actor, but I'm saying, like, long term, I think they're probably going to use an AI voice anyway. What do you think? A lot of you guys are just saying he deserves a break, which I agree. Jay Heedley says, speaking of AI, have you heard about the Scooby-Doo fan film? Yes, we talked about it on a live stream last week, so if you want to hear my thoughts on that, check out that live stream. The Lion Dog Show says, he will be missed. It's hard to imagine the character without his voice. I know, it is such an iconic voice that even Chris Pratt, who I actually think is a good voice actor, just still couldn't do, like, the justice, he still couldn't really bring the same magic that he brought. So this is a pretty big deal. Whatever voice actor they do get to replace him has pretty big shoes to fill. And let's just hope that they get to keep their job for a while, and not get replaced by AI. Josh Loves Movies says, no to AI Mario, it sounds horrible, yeah. Elijah says it's going to be hard to find another one. It is going to be hard because it's such a specific voice too. Like, you really got to find someone who could do that high-pitched Italian voice, like, very, very well. It's very distinct. Okay, Sonali says Nintendo is very cautious and listens to fans mostly. That's what I've heard, that Nintendo is like very, very fan driven. So I don't think they're going to choose anyone that would upset their fans. So we'll see. We'll see. But I wanted to bring this up because I know a number of you mentioned it yesterday. So here's this big story from today. Now getting on to the next huge topic that I really wanted to get into is this. This is just a rumor, so this isn't confirmed or anything. This isn't like breaking news. It's just a rumor. But it's from a rumor account. This is one of those scooping accounts that's on Twitter that's always like breaking leaks and stuff. They're pretty consistent on getting a lot of things right, which is why I think this entire tweet is getting traction at all. But they're writing that Marvel is considering rebooting the entire MCU after Avengers Secret Wars. And that this will end not just the Foxverse, but the current MCU that we know it, and then they'll just focus on a new universe with a new version of these characters. And it'll be like a soft reboot, kind of like what they were trying to do with The Flash and DC. What do you guys think about this? Honestly, I think this is necessary. I think that Marvel is kind of such a clusterfuck at the moment that I think they're getting a lot of people to lose interest because no one really understands like what the overall story is anymore. There's so many plot holes. The story is contrived. No one really can even tell, like, even if you're paying attention and watching everything, it's still hard to piece things together because the world doesn't even feel that connected anymore. And I think it's just getting to the point where they have to reboot. Because, especially, and I wanted to point this out to you guys, Secret Wars is not even supposed to come out currently until 2027. Now, I think that's very, very optimistic. I think there's a possibility this could come out even later than that, like even 2030 late. But look at just how many movies we have to go until we even get to Secret Wars. And this isn't even showing all the shows that they're doing either. This is just the movies. So not only is it going to be forever until we get to Secret Wars, but we're going to have like umpteen million shows and umpteen million movies until we get to Secret Wars. I think by the time people are already talking about superhero fatigue right now. I think by the time Secret Wars comes out, people will just be so sick and tired of it. I think it'll be incredibly obvious that rebooting is their only option. But what do you guys think? I know this could be controversial. Who do you guys think that they should reboot or not? I'm going to do a poll. In fact, let me do the poll right now. Should Marvel reboot, yes or no? Marvel reboot. I'm going to say yes, they need a hard reboot. I'm going to say yes, soft reboot. And then no, keep going with what they're doing. That's the third option. What do you guys think? Asking the community now. Lou Boozybert says, I'm over MCU and DCU. I'm ready for the Image or Vertigo cinematic universe to pop off. Okay. Well, maybe we'll get some new comic book superheroes to take over. I don't know. I feel like just the general superhero genre entirely is kind of tired. I don't know if just going to a different distributor is going to change things, but maybe it could. Joshua Munn says, 2030 is optimistic. You still think 2030 is optimistic? I thought I was being negative. 2030 is optimistic. It may never come out because the strikes will never end unless it's all AI, which is highly possible. That's what we were talking about the other day. I said there's a very real possibility that at least part of Secret Wars is just AI, which could make the filming go by faster, but I don't know if they're gonna piss off so many people anyone will watch, but we'll see. Going back to the poll, looks like 52% of you actually think, yes, Marvel needs a hard reboot. I'm actually surprised you guys think a hard reboot is necessary. I actually think a soft reboot is fine, and I'll explain why. But I'm actually surprised so many of you just want a hard reboot. 26% of you are saying soft reboot. That's what I say. And then 23% of you just say keep going. You don't want to reboot at all. This is actually pretty all over the place. I'm surprised. Although, over 20 or 75% of you think that Marvel needs to reboot, so that's not good. That means that things are going pretty badly for them to really think that, for most of you to think that they have to reboot at this point. Could you even imagine this? like 5 years ago when Avengers Endgame came out and there was so much hype around that. Like everyone was talking about it. Everyone was talking about Avengers Endgame. And now 5 years later, it's like people are over it. Like people fell off from the MCU very, very quickly. Jordan Davis says, "I'll agree on soft reboot." Yeah, that's how I'm feeling. The reason why I'm saying soft reboot. Oh, the Modern Designer just became a new member. Thank you so much for becoming a member of the Modern Designer. You're always so generous. You're always supporting me. Thank you so much, the Modern Designer. And if you want to become a member as well, just click the join button at the bottom of the screen. I would really appreciate it. Thank you. But the reason why I think they should do a soft reboot over a hard reboot is because I think there's still a number of characters from this current universe that they can explore more with. Characters like Wanda. They're gonna bring in Deadpool before they do this reboot. Like, I think these are all kinds of characters that they should continue with. I just don't think that they need to continue with, like, even 95% of the characters that are currently in the MCU. I think that they just need to take, like, the fan favorites, put them in a separate universe, and then just focus that entire universe around, like, the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. That's what I think they should do. Angel says, "I can't even tell you the movie after Endgame." Yeah, it seems like a lot of people just kind of, like, no longer was interested after Endgame. It really does seem like people just kind of stopped with that one. I also think it was a mistake, maybe, to put the word end in the name, so it just put, like, the idea in everyone's minds that this was the end. I think maybe the naming also has a part of that. I've thought about that a couple times. I'm like, maybe they shouldn't have named it Endgame. Like, that just sounded too final if they wanted to keep going. Connor Garrett says, "Marvel, along with Lucasfilm, has become a cash cow that can only produce dust at this point." It's kind of crazy. Both Marvel and Lucasfilm were like giants in the 2010s. You couldn't, like, those two properties were unavoidable. You couldn't escape them. They were just everywhere. And I remember specifically because I was working in Disney World in 2017 during, like, the height of both Star Wars and Marvel. And you couldn't escape it. It was everywhere. The fact that they could have their own Marvel and Star Wars stores, like, in the parks or whatever, and, like, they'd be full of people buying stuff. Like, the hype was very real. So it's just crazy how both properties have fallen, like, really, really hard and so quickly. Yoshi says, "I mean, end game. It's in the title." Exactly, that's my point. I'm like, maybe if you guys wanted to keep going forever, you shouldn't have named your penultimate movie End Game. That was probably a mistake in hindsight. Maiden says, "But that's not going to do anything because that's literally just what they're doing now. A reboot won't help because now we have to learn new lore and it's still sequels and add-ons." Oh, that's a great point, Maiden. So you don't think that the reboot will help the universe at all because it's just going to be a whole new lore that you're going to have to learn? It's going to have to be like everyone starting over from scratch? I can see how that would be exhausting. How, like, the idea of having to do this all over again. But at the same time, Disney is never going to let Marvel just stop making stuff. They're always going to have to keep going. And as long as they're going to have to keep making stuff, I want the stuff that they make to make sense. And the only way that these movies can continue making sense is if they clean up their storylines and their universe. And I think that Marvel has already gotten to a point with their storylines that they're already so convoluted that I think that they're going to have to reboot, because you can't have stakes in any of these movies when it seems like no one can really die and nothing really matters because you can just time travel or you can just bring someone back. Or there's some other loophole in, like, another movie or show that you watch that explains something you're watching now, and you're like, oh, why don't you just go ask Doctor Strange or so on and so on? They already figured this out in, like, the other show I just watched. Like, we're already getting to that point. I think it's getting a little ridiculous. ACP says a reboot would just be more homework. Interesting. But I think it would be less homework, though. It would be less homework because you wouldn't have to know so much lore at the top. Like, eventually it'll become homework because they'll probably just end up in the same position that they started with. But at the beginning, there wouldn't be a lot of, like, homework because that's the whole point of the reboot, is that you can just start, like, from scratch. That's the benefit of it, in my mind. That cover girl says they need to make standalone content, no extra homework. So would you guys prefer that Marvel is just like no longer connected at all, like at all? Do you just want the MCU to just like not even really be a universe and all these movies to just be entirely disconnected? Or do you want at least a little bit connection like there was in the first three phases? Which one would you prefer? Um, Angel says they need to chill out now and try making every movie bigger than the last. Yeah, I think there's no stakes in any of these movies now because every movie is the end of the world. It's the biggest stakes ever. And I think you're right, that's a huge problem. And why, again, I think a reboot is necessary at this point. Film Fanatic says, currently I think DC is better because Marvel is so complicated and it feels like you have to have Disney Plus. Yeah, I think Disney Plus really, I think Disney Plus is the reason Marvel's having so many problems. I think Star Wars was already having problems before Disney Plus, but I think specifically the shows for Marvel is like where it all went wrong. I think it was too much content and a lot of it wasn't that good, and I think it just got a lot of people uninterested. And we are about to talk more about Marvel and like the other issues that Disney is facing with the video we're about to react to. Then any other comments about a potential reboot with the Marvel Universe before we get to that video? Because the video is about 20 minutes, so I want to make sure that we have time for the whole thing, because I don't want this live stream to go on for like 2 hours. Any other comments about this? Envire Earth 2 says, DC knows how to do TV shows, Marvel knows how to do movies. That's probably very true, because I feel like every time a DC fan talks about DC, they're always like, oh, but their shows are amazing. I don't watch any of their shows, but I've heard nothing but like positive stuff about DC shows, but mostly like mixed to negative stuff when it comes to their movies, so that's probably true. Koharu says Marvel just needs to end. Koharu, you're just over Marvel entirely. Every stream, you're just like, I'm done. I don't care. That's fair. Bingo's Adventure says they made a Disney Princess crossover on Disney Plus. Oh, I'm not sure. I'm not sure. I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised that they did that at all. I'm only surprised that they didn't do that sooner. All right. Moving on to the video, because we have more to talk about with Marvel, but really just Disney in general. Because as we've been talking about on my channel, Disney is kind of going through it. Like, seriously going through it. And we're about to watch the Film Theorist channel. I really like their channel. I've already reacted to one of their Marvel videos before. So I know that this should be okay. And they make really good comments about like where the state of the industry is at, where Disney's place is in it, and like they break down all the issues that Disney is having. So that's why I'm reacting to it, and we agree on a lot. But before we get to the reaction, I do want to get to the member segment of the day. As always, if you're a member, you have the opportunity to get a shout out in my live streams. And you can participate in all of the members only posts in the community tab. So I asked the members today, why do you think Disney is struggling so much right now, and what are the main reasons that they're having so many issues? Why all their movies are flopping? Why no one's going to their parks right now? Like, what's going on? And the CoverGirl official, again, thank you so much for being a member, says, I think Disney is struggling because of a lack of original creative movies, and the higher-ups at Disney lack the vision Walt had. I think that's very, very true. I think Disney has a lack of, this is going to sound harsh, but I think Disney has a lack of talent problem. I think that a lot of the people that they're hiring to make these shows are really inexperienced, and they're purposely looking for inexperienced people because they want to be able to control them. Disney wants to be able to have the final say and basically ghost direct everything. So they're hiring these people that don't know really what they're doing because they don't have a lot of experience, and they don't really prioritize the writing because they just think the writing is like not important. So you wind up with a lot of trash that's not very watchable, and then they get confused why no one likes their stuff. But yeah, that's what Disney's doing. Again, I know it can be very, very blunt, but that's the truth. Nicholas Wilson, again, thank you so much for being a member, Nicholas, says, I feel like the core problem is that they make inoffensive movies. Movies that work for a focus group and then milk whatever works for them at the start, turning out anything they can based on a property that audiences liked. That is a very real point. I think what you're alluding to here is that I think a lot of Disney movies right now just feel like corporate products. Like, you watch them and they just feel like they're made off of a machine, like a conveyor belt of blockbusters or something. Like, none of them feel like they have any soul. As I mentioned yesterday when I was watching Haunted Mansion, like, the main issue I had with that movie is just felt like it was so corporate and bland. But that's how, like, most Disney movies are lately. Sadie T says, nothing is more powerful than Disney's legal team. Oh, trust me, I'm sure Disney's legal team is fighting tooth and nail to make sure that everything is perfect for them, that they're moving around the money to make sure it doesn't look as bad as it actually is over there. Oh, I'm sure. They're definitely trying to protect themselves. And from copyright, because I know a number of their copyrights are due to expire soon, so they have a lot of issues going on. Kisaki says, they are spending too much money on remakes and subpar sequels. Their new content is also boring and with no risk-taking at all. Disney needs to rearrange their creative team and look back at the golden era of Disney and Pixar to see what made those movies great. Plus, they need to make their parks more affordable for families to go. Definitely think they need to make the parks more affordable. The parks have gotten ridiculously expensive. I also think they need to just add back a lot of the charm and magic to their movies. Like, I feel like their movies now are just so, like, there's just no charm to them. Like, again, there's only so many ways you can just say their movies are very bland and very vanilla. As Nicholas said, they're trying to make them so inoffensive. It's almost like you wish they would offend something, so at least you feel something, you know? Okay, Joshua Munn does not want a live-action Frozen. Well, I'm sorry, Joshua, because I bet you within 10 years are probably getting one. Kay says, maybe Disney needs to crash so they can work their way up again. My Wi-Fi just randomly go off in the middle of the stream, so yeah, that was messed up. I wanted this stream to go without a hitch, without another technical glitch. But that did not happen. I'm sorry. Hopefully everything is fixed. How is everyone doing? I'm so sorry. Yes, I'm back. Hello. Thank you everyone who waited, by the way. I mean, the fact that so many of you waited is nice. Very, very nice. Hello. Yes, I'm back. Okay, I see you guys are all coming back. I'm glad I was able to just go back to the same stream. I wasn't sure I was even gonna be able to do that, so now I didn't have to make a separate stream. Yay, I just have a very complicated one stream I'm gonna have to edit somehow. But anyway, I was at the point where I was about to react to MattPat's video, so we're about to just react to the video. That's all we're about to do in this half of the live stream. Thank you, Josh. I'm glad you all came back. All right, just getting to the video now. I changed the format also, so you guys can actually see the whole video and not just part of the video, so here we go. It's a very good video. Again, this video is titled, Disney is Finally Dead, Here's Why. They have a really good video here about all the issues that just Disney is currently facing with all their divisions, with Marvel, with Lucasfilm, with their animation, Pixar. They really break it down very, very well. This is a very well made video. So let's break into it. Let's talk about it. Let's see what they say.
Disney is dying, and it's easy to see why. Between the back-to-back flops, burning money to supply Disney Plus, and films that just miss the mark, Disney is in trouble. But today, I've got the solution, and the answer that the House of Mouse is looking for is right here on YouTube.
Again, I love the fact that they bring up YouTube as a potential solution, because isn't something that we've been talking about a lot on my channel, how, like, Hollywood should be looking more towards YouTube, and like how YouTube does things. I think it's very, very interesting that they too also brought up YouTube, as you will see. Oh, what was that? We have a super chat from John Burns. Thank you so much for the super chat. So Disney's dead. Do we care? That's a fair point. I know a lot of people are just so over Disney they don't care at all. I know a number of people are like, why should we care that they're not doing well? That's a good point. Here's why I think I care. Well, other than the fact that I grew up with Disney, I think that Disney just used to be such a monolith within the entertainment industry. And they still are. Like, Disney has shaped culture so much, especially in the US. Like, Disney has shaped American culture, American traditions, American myths. It's a huge part of just not just entertainment, but like kind of society. Like, Disney is in such a different studio from every other studio because of that. No one else has the sort of cultural baggage that Disney brings. So that's why I think it's interesting for me to study like why Disney's going so off and so wrong, because I think that signals something broader within just our culture and society. I think that's why I'm bringing it up. Jordan Davis says Disney's lost its magic. Yeah, very, very true. We are back, the modern designer. Thank you so much for coming back. Wait, you said I was frozen? Oh God, please don't say that. No, don't say I was frozen. Everything's good on my end. Everything fine? Okay. Nicholas is saying I'm fine. So I'm gonna keep going. Just getting back to the video.
Hello,
great graphics, too.
Welcome to Film Theory, the show that won't charge you $27 million a year to fix your problems. How's that for cost savings there, Bob Iger?
Shade at Bob Iger, by the way. Good shade, too. Because everyone's been talking about the salaries of these CEOs, so...
Have you noticed that a lot of
smart.
movies have bombed recently? Fast X underperformed, The Flash is looking like it'll lose $200 million to
exactly
Warner
what I've
Brothers.
been talking about, how all these movies have been bombing. It's like they've been watching my videos or something. Honestly, I don't think that. I just think it's becoming very, very obvious that a lot of these studios are having problems. But it's funny that even the film theorists are mentioning some of the same things I've been talking to you guys about. Because look at this. The Flash, 108 million. Freaking Fast X, 146 million. These are paltry numbers for, like, huge, huge franchises here.
Making it the biggest comic book movie bomb ever. Even objectively great films like Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning 1 fell short of expectations this summer. But
Which is surprising because, again, I really liked this movie. But it sucks that the new Mission Impossible movie is kind of a flop. Like, it's gonna lose $100 million, y'all. $100 million. The new Mission Impossible movie. Like, we went from Tom Cruise saved cinema last year with Top Gun Maverick to, oof, Mission Impossible is gonna lose $100 million. Like, life comes at you fast. But that just shows you again, like, how volatile the space, like, for movies is at the box office. Like, you really don't know, like, for sure what's gonna be a hit or not anymore.
biggest victim of the box office bloodbath for the last 2 years has got to be our mouse-eared overlords at Walt Disney Corp. Doctor Strange 2, Thor 3, and Black Panther 2 all came in under expectations. The Little Mermaid vastly underperformed. Both Ant-Man 3 and New Indiana Jones were also...
Honestly, Indiana Jones' flop is, I think, still underreported. Indiana Jones flopped so bad, I'm pretty sure it's in, like, the top 2 or 3, like, biggest box office flops of all time. It might even be number 1. Like, Indiana Jones was an embarrassing flop. Like, Indiana Jones was supposed to be, at one point, it was considered to be as prestigious as of a franchise as Star Wars itself. So to see that now, it can't even get to what, like 300 million worldwide? That's embarrassing. And really, really bad for Harrison Ford. Oh, Environed Earths calls it Disney fatigue. Yeah, I think people are having Disney fatigue. I think that's part of it. I think they just dominated the 2010s so much that it's almost like, again, post-pandemic, the 2020s, everyone's like, oh, I want to do something different. I want a fresh start. So everyone's like getting into things that are different than what they used to like pre-pandemic. And I think that includes Disney. So it's like all this stuff that was super popular, like 2019, is all like becoming unpopular now, just because I think people are like, I think the pandemic really changed a lot of people, and I think it changed a lot of people's mindsets, to be honest. Jack says, I would love to see new studios. We might get new studios because of the strikes. We'll see. Depends on how long the strikes last.
Costly losers. No one even remembers Disney's last animated feature film,
Strange World. No one talks about Strange World. I made a whole video about Strange World, and I still feel like no one knows that movie exists. That movie just came and went. Like, Disney barely even marketed that movie. Like, maybe a whisper about it on social media once with, like, a single tweet or something. I don't know. but like no one talks about that movie. Strange World, I mean, it's kind of a forgettable movie to be honest, but like there's like, at least with Lightyear, people know that it flopped hard, but at least people remember Lightyear. No one even remembers Strange World. That's just like extra embarrassing. Nicholas says, I wonder if it was pandemic or just natural cycling out of trends. I think the pandemic hastened the cycling of trends. I think trends that were already in place pre-pandemic were accelerated because of the pandemic. I think Marvel was probably always going to have a bit of a struggle after Endgame, just because, like, how do you follow something up like that? But I think it was probably made even harder because of the pandemic. That's what I think. See, Lil Boozy Bird doesn't even know what Strange World is. That's what I'm talking about. Josh Loves Movies says Elemental made a fantastic recovery. They really did. I'm actually happy for that movie.
Film ever, including Lightyear, the massive bomb that was released right before it. The long and short of all of this, things are bad at the House of Mouse right now. Disney shares are at the lowest that they've been since COVID hit back in March of 2020, and to turn it all around, they're considering selling off their TV businesses, spinning off
talked
ESPN,
about this.
laying off thousands of...
Again, it's a huge deal for them to be talking about, like, Disney actually selling off their linear TV. Because linear TV for decades was like Hollywood's bread and butter. It's how they paid their bills, essentially. So for Disney to be talking about, like, oh, our TV assets aren't core enough. Oh, we don't really need ABC. They're just kind of there. That's huge. That just shows you that the end of linear TV is nigh. Because that's pretty messed up, actually. And the fact that I saw an article saying that a whole bunch of executives who work for ABC got really freaked out when Iger said that the linear stuff wasn't core anymore. And I'm like, of course they were freaked out. You just basically said that you're potentially getting rid of them. Like, why wouldn't they be freaked out? Anyone even care about, like, Disney not owning ABC anymore? Does anyone, again, how many of you guys even watch linear TV anymore? Joshua Munn says the House of Mouse TV show still isn't on Disney+. It's very surprising that it's not. You would think it would. Editing Geek says Elio will most likely flop again. Honestly, it probably will. It probably will. I don't have a lot of high hopes for Elio, I gotta be honest.
Employees. We are truly witnessing the death of the Disney empire happening in real time right now.
I know, it's crazy.
I think that there's a way to fix things, and the key to it all is YouTube. So grab your popcorn as I prepare to tell you a story far more compelling than anything's put out over the last few years. It's time to fix Disney in 3 easy steps.
Interesting. I'm looking at the chat right now, and you guys are saying that no, you guys don't care about the ABC thing. ACP doesn't even have cable. Oh, Megan says I haven't watched TV in a decade. A decade, like any TV, or do you just mean like linear TV? Do you not even watch streaming TV? Laura B says not me, just streaming and YouTube. Interesting. Okay. Nicholas says this guy's presentation is quite overwhelming. I like his editing style. A lot of you are just saying you don't watch cable anymore. That's why they don't consider it core, because I don't think a lot of people really watch it anymore.
But before I help a large soulless corporation earn its millions back, won't you help our small soulful corporation here earn some thousands back? You can help do that by
they have some nice merch. I might do merch one day. We'll see.
We're all to ourselves at the local mall. I hear there's quite a few vacant Disney locations that could use some new tenants. Speaking of, let's talk more about that Disney dilemma, shall we? Basically, when you break it all down, Disney's problems largely boil down to 3 major topics.
Here's where they get really, really specific.
Streaming, budget, and story. So,
yes, their main issues are 100% streaming, budget, and story. Now, they're about to break it down, but let me give you my thoughts on it first. Okay, the main issue that they have with streaming right now. Firstly, a lot of the stuff that they're putting on streaming isn't very good. We've talked about it. A lot of their Disney Plus shows just haven't been well received. They just had Secret Invasion, which was just like, I'm pretty sure Secret Invasion was their worst received show. Not even for like, I think it's gotta be between Secret Invasion and Book of Boba Fett for like the worst reviewed or worst received show on Disney Plus. But a lot of their shows are just generally not hitting. And they're not really like touching the zeitgeist anymore either. So going into the second point, which is budget, they're spending like $250 million on these shows that no one's really talking about anymore, that are getting less and less viewership, that's not even getting people to stick around because Disney is losing subscribers. So it's like, why are they even making shows? At this point, I kind of think Disney needs to just stop making Disney Plus shows altogether and just make Disney Plus like a place for old Disney content and just make it like the Disney Vault or something. Because going with the third point here, I think what they really have a problem with is story. I think, again, as I've mentioned earlier, a lot of the stories that they do now just seem really repetitive. They seem really bland. And the reason they seem so repetitive and bland is because they're not putting the emphasis on creativity like they used to. They're putting the emphasis on, let's see how much we can screen test this movie. Let's see how much, okay, can we get the fans from this demographic to like it? Or can we get this demographic to like this aspect? Like, it all just seems like it's made by committee. It's made by some corporate machine. And the story is absolutely last on anyone's minds when it should be the first thing. So that's why I think that those are my three issues. Those are what I think are Disney's biggest problems. We're about to hear what he thinks, but those are what I think Disney needs to fix right now. They need better stories. They need their budgets lowered. Like, they're spending way too much on these shows that no one's watching. And just generally, they need to make better stuff on streaming or stop making it altogether, because it's either they're wasting their money or they're hurting their brand because they're making stuff no one likes. So just either make better stuff or stop making it. That's honestly what I think they should do. Jax has not had linear TV for years. Honestly, I cut the cord in 2011, so I was one of the earliest adopters for that as well. Nicholas says House of Harkness is basically our WandaVision Season 2. It is WandaVision Season 2, but House of Harkness is coming out, 4 years after WandaVision? Why are they making a sequel to something 4 years later? That doesn't make sense. That's why all this franchise is getting so convoluted. Like, why are we making sequels to stuff 4 years later? Like, who's gonna care by then? Okay, I'm glad you agree with me, Laura.
Let's go through them point by point, starting with streaming. One thing that everyone tends to overlook when they first start a streaming service is that you need a steady flow of content to make it work, to keep people hooked on the platform. And making content tends to be expensive, hence the elongated merch push they just went through. But even if you thread the needle and manage to solve both of those issues, making lots of content for a relatively cheap price, it just opens a well of new issues that are more difficult to solve. Let me explain. To prevent people from bouncing off the platform, most of Disney's star studios have been relegated to content factories to feed the Disney.
See, I love how he's literally conveying it as a conveyor belt, because that's what it is. It's like all Disney's doing is they're just taking their IP, shoving it through this bland corporate machine that is Disney Plus, and coming out with the most unoriginal, uninspired stuff possible. And then they're surprised people are wising up that it's crap and no one's watching it. I mean, are they surprised? Are they surprised?
Plus machine. In 2020, Disney held an Investor Day presentation.
Oh, I remember this day very well. They announced, Disney had this Investor Day in 2020, and I remember it very, very clearly, because as a nerd, I was like, oh wow, they're announcing all this stuff, this is super exciting. But they had Bob Iger out there, they had Kathleen Kennedy, and they had Kevin Feige, and the heads of Pixar and animation, they had the heads of all the departments, and they came out and they announced each that they're all going to make 10 plus shows for Disney Plus. And I remember that day very clearly, because I was like, oh wow, we're getting so many announcements, we're getting so much content from Marvel and Star Wars, look at all these cool shows that we're getting. I mean, look at this.
Pixar announced.
Look at how much stuff that they were announcing, all the graphics around them. It was a big, exciting day. But even back then, I remember thinking, you know what, I think this might be too much. Didn't they just say that they were pausing Star Wars movies because they realized that they were oversaturating Star Wars content? And then they went in 2020 and announced 10 Star Wars shows? Even back then, I was like, wait a minute, this doesn't make any sense. And here we are 3 years later, and it turns out my suspicions were accurate, that it was a mistake. That whole day, I think, was a mistake, in my opinion. Yoshi says, if they are surprised, they shouldn't be. I know. Okuharu also remembers that day. Pretty Princess says, Disney took the Simpsons hostage and I'll never forgive them. I know, Disney even owns the Simpsons. They own everything. Nicholas says, that day was actually exciting for me. That day was exciting for everyone, but as Josh just put it, that Investors Day just aged so badly. It has aged worse more and more each day. And I'm so glad that my initial assessment of that day was to be cautious and hesitant was right. Because I was like, even back then, I was like, I think this might be too much. Boy, was I right. Enviro Earth says, so we could get 3 films in 2025. Deadpool 3, Spider-Man 4, and Superman Legacy. And a bunch of others. Those might be the 3 biggest, but we're probably going to get a lot more than that. I actually think I think 2 of those could do well. I don't know about Superman Legacy. I think Superman Legacy I think even if that movie is good, I think it still could flop. We have a super chat from Metronoma1. Thank you so much, Metronoma. Hi, Brittany. I have Disney Plus right now, but I only have it to watch the old animated classics and Renaissance. Not interested in any of the new stuff. That's why I think it might just be cheaper for Disney, if we're being honest. If they just use Disney Plus as their vault for all their old content to watch, if you just wanted to like watch some old Disney stuff, rather than just using it to make new stuff. Because it's too expensive, and to be honest, they're bad at it. Yeah, they're making another Spider-Man. You don't want another Spider-Man, Gianna? It's with Tom Holland. It's not a new Spider-Man. Alright, going back to the video, because we got a lot to cover.
Gated to content factories to feed the Disney Plus machine. In 2020, Disney held an Investor
This day aged so badly.
Lucasfilm announced 10 projects each, and Pixar announced another 6. It wasn't all streaming focused, but a whole lot of it was. In addition, the service has been flooded with Disney dipping into all its other major IPs. Live-action remakes of Peter Pan, serialized versions...
Oh, that Peter Pan, that movie. See? They announced all of this stuff on that Investor Day. Like, they announced the Peter Pan and Wendy movie on that day. They announced the High School Musical, the series on that day. But other than, I guess, Olivia Rodrigo, do you really hear people talk about the High School Musical show? And I reviewed the Peter Pan and Wendy movie, and I thought that movie was not that great. So, even the stuff that they did announce that wasn't Marvel and Star Wars related didn't even wind up being that good or even that watched. So... They have a lot of issues, because it's not even like Marvel could, or Disney could be like, okay, well, people aren't as interested in our Marvel and Star Wars stuff anymore. Why don't we go and, I don't know, make something else? Because whenever they do make something else, people still don't watch it. So that's kind of the issue that they find themselves in. Mr. Pizza says Peter Pan was god-awful. I don't even think it was awful. I just think that it was everything that is wrong with the Disney remake. They took something that was colorful and magical and whimsical, and they made it dark and realistic and depressing, which is like the exact opposite of what they should have done. The Free Rocket Man says, why so many live-action adaptations, though, from the studios that mastered Western animation? I know, you really think Disney would want to double down on animation more, but they're so head-set on dealing with live action. I really think that they should like focus more on animation, to be honest. But not just any animation, just make it the story original. Make it original, more mature, and more complex stories, and I think their animation not only could have a comeback, but be significantly more successful than their live action stuff that they've been doing lately. Because I really do think animation is on the brink of a huge like breakout here in the West. I really believe that. Oh, thank you, John Burns, also for another super chat. Always so generous. Thank you, John. I remember watching The Wonderful World of Disney on the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation on Sunday nights in the 70s. Disney screwed that. Honestly, you know, I know what you're talking about. Disney used to have a lot of, like, television programs where they would have Walt, like, talk about Disney, like, things that Disney was doing with the parks and with the movies and stuff like that. I don't know if they would bring that on TV, because, again, linear TV is dying, but honestly, I think they should do something similar to that. Like, maybe they should have, I don't know, Bob Iger make some YouTube videos in his cardigan, you know, doing his best Walt impression, going over his future plans for the parks like Walt used to do. Maybe they should go back to doing stuff like that. Um, oh, Gianna says, unpopular opinion, the old Snow White and Sleeping Beauty movies are god-awful. Interesting. I mean, they're not great. I used to love the Sleeping Beauty movie when I was a kid, to be honest. But yeah, even the Snow White movie when I was a little kid, I always thought that one was really boring. So I half agree with you.
High School Musical, the return of nostalgic classics like Willow, and the launch of
Oh yeah, even Willow!
like
Even Willow! Artemis Fowl. Oh my god. Y'all, Artemis Fowl is probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen. I watched that movie because so many people on Twitter were like, oh, this movie's so awful, it's terrible, and the things they were describing in that movie I just couldn't believe were true. So I watched it for myself, and this movie is god-awful. It's terrible. It's possibly even worse than Jurassic World Dominion. Possibly. It's that bad. So, yeah, the stuff that they're putting on Disney Plus is not great. It's like mostly just crap that they know that's gonna flop in theaters. That's the stuff that they put on Disney Plus pretty much. In fact, maybe I've been thinking about on Fridays, since it's looking like there might not always be a lot of movies to review on Fridays. I might review an old movie because you guys want me to. Maybe I'll go and roast this movie one day because I have a lot of thoughts on it. This movie was awful. But yeah, it just shows you like a lot of the stuff that they put on this streaming service is just terrible. Way terrible. Just Loves Movies agrees. Artemis Fowl was a dumpster fire. The very definition of a dumpster fire. You're right. I have to move on. I just have to point that out.
Some of the most beloved IP on the planet, and they've been pulling it all off the shelves to try and keep their content offering on Disney Plus robust, and most importantly, sticky, to keep all those finicky streaming audiences that are quick to cancel a subscription. Despite it being difficult and expensive to stay on that online content treadmill, at least on the surface, it looks like Disney managed to thread the needle. But in achieving that, they've actually exposed themselves to a problem that's far worse. Brand dilution. There's no arguing that...
I think brand dilution is... I think the key takeaway from all of this, from all of their brands, not even just Disney, but Marvel, Star Wars, everything. I think Disney is learning that you can have too much of a good thing, and that too much of a good thing means that you get less excited for that thing. And I think that's what's happening with everything. It's just like, why would I get excited for more Marvel when it feels like we're getting something new Marvel every week? It's just not special anymore. I think that really hurt it. Joshua Munn says Ariel and Bart Simpson are owned by Disney. Yes, we've talked about that. I actually have a whole video talking about Disney owning The Simpsons. Maiden says, I just don't understand why they won't make good and interesting stories. If they're gonna spit out tons of sequels, no one would care as much about these finished franchise continuing, and they'd get money. I don't think they understand how to make good or interesting stories. I think they're too scared to. I think that, like, as I think it was Nicholas who said, I think they're so worried about making these films inoffensive that they can't make good stories anymore. I think that's really part of it. But going back to the video.
Pretty much every single one of these cherished franchises has become significantly less special over the last 5 years. Simply because there's just so much of them around at this point. Toy Story 4, Lightyear, Toy
Ridiculous.
Story 5. You can only go to the pump so many times before the audience can smell a shameless cash grab. Going back to those Investor Day announcements, most of the Star Wars...
Look at this! I'm sorry, I know. This Investor Day just aged so horribly. Look at this! Look at how many of these shows either... were horribly well received, were either horribly received, or just flopped, so no one watched them, or just aren't getting made, like we're completely canceled. Okay, let's go through it, just quickly. We're gonna go through this. Indiana Jones, horrible flop. Obi-Wan was not well received, didn't get the viewership they hoped for either. The Bad Batch, not a lot of people watched it. Andor, not a lot of people watched it. Willow, people hated it, and the people who watched it didn't like it. The Rangers of the New Republic got canceled. Ahsoka, about to air, probably gonna flop. Lando, are they actually gonna do this? I don't know, we'll see. We'll see. We still don't even know if that's actually gonna get made. Rogue Squadron also got canceled, so that's not happening. A droid story, what the heck is that? I think that was an animated thing. They must have canceled it, because I don't think that ever came out. The Mandalorian, the only thing that's sort of going well for them right now, but Season 3 was a huge disappointment for a lot of people and also declined in viewership, so not going great for them. Star Wars Visions, no one watches that. Children of Blood and Bone also got canceled. So look at how much failure is on this on this one board right here. I mean, that's embarrassing. That's really embarrassing. Did anyone even watch these? Did a droid story happen? Did I miss that? Elijah says they were just giving us a list of bad movies. Yeah. I mean, The Acolyte is, I think, still happening, so will anyone watch that? We'll see. Joshua Munn says nothing's gonna get made because of the strikes. That is very possible, Joshua. I feel like, Joshua, you are the most pessimistic with the strikes. You think these strikes are just never ending. Oh, do we have another super chat? What was that? Kasaki says, casting Zendaya as Tiana would be terrible. Yeah, they're not gonna do that. They're definitely gonna go for a darker skinned actress for Tiana. Oh, the Free Rocket Man says, I'm scared for the Ahsoka show. Yeah, I think Star Wars really needs Ahsoka to be a hit, and I have a feeling that the show is only going to appeal to a very small core audience that watched the animated show that it's based on, and not much else. I feel like, I don't know if it's really going to get a wider appeal than the original audience that watched Rebels. But we'll see. Josh says the Acolyte has potential, maybe. I haven't seen anything from it yet, though. I just think it's really, really funny that, look at how badly this aged. And it's only been like 3 years. But yeah, that was a pretty bad, fateful day, looking back at it.
Wars ones, they were quietly canceled. A completely different episode 9, a Boba Fett solo movie, a trilogy from Rian Johnson, another trilogy from the Game of Thrones guys. When something new from Star Wars gets announced at this point, there's little trust that it's ever gonna see the light of day.
They've canceled so many things. How do we even trust that the stuff that they've announced is actually gonna get made? They announced 3 Star Wars movies a couple of months ago, and I still feel like the general, reception from people is like, yeah, we'll believe it when we see it. Like, no one actually believes those movies are gonna get made, which is embarrassing. Like, how do you as a studio now have so little faith in, the general public that you can announce a whole slate of movies and everyone's just like, yeah, but are you really? Because that's how everyone reacted. It's so embarrassing.
And even less trust that it's going to be good. Andor, for instance, it was legitimately
Coco Jones
great.
would be good.
Seriously, it was the single best thing that Star Wars has produced in years. But you know why no one watched it? Because it was buried under a slew of underwhelming projects like the Book of Boba Fett, Obi-Wan Kenobi, late season Mandalorian, and Episode 9. People lost trust with the brand, and as a result, deprioritized watching all the new stuff that was rolling out.
I think losing trust is the key word here. It's brand dilution. Disney Plus made everyone lose trust in these brands, and the fact that they can even make something quality, I think that's sad. Even with Marvel, people are now just waiting and seeing with the movies because they don't even trust that what they're gonna get is good. Before Disney Plus, everyone just knew that they were probably gonna like it, even if they didn't like it. Those were pretty the movies you didn't like from Marvel were pretty far and few between. Now it's you're more often than not probably not gonna like what you see, and that's a huge bummer.
MCU is having the exact same issue right now. Look at this. Phase 1 had 746 minutes of content spread over 5 years. Phase 2, 757 minutes spread over 3 years. And then you had Phase 3 at 1,500 minutes spread over another 3 years. That was a pretty significant jump, but it was nothing compared to Phase 4.
Look at this.
Thanks in part to the introduction of Disney Plus and the requirement for streaming content, Phase 4 had a staggering 3,500 minutes spread across only 2 years.
3,500 minutes in just 2 years, pretty much. 3,500 minutes. That's what I'm talking about when I say Marvel drastically oversaturated their audience. That is insanity. It's insane. Even the most diehard Marvel fan, I know a number of you in the comments are probably like, I watched it all, but I know most people are not watching all of that. Most people do not have the time for all of that. So you're automatically dividing your audience because now you're making so much content it's impossible to watch it all. So now you're making your content not a must-see because not everyone can see it. So I think it was just a really big mistake, a huge mistake. Brianna says this is just making my headache worse. Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, it is quantity over quality. Very much true. Josh says Marvel needs to make their phases last longer, not shorter, at least a few years. Yeah, I think They need to make less stuff, and I think that they need to have, if they're gonna stay a connected universe, they need to put more effort into showing how this stuff is, like, interconnected. Because you watch something and it's like, it doesn't even feel, like, say you watch Secret Invasion. Secret Invasion doesn't even feel like it's that important in the grand scheme of things. Even though it's supposed to be something like this big, huge thing that happened in the comics, apparently. In the scheme, in like the realm of the MCU, it doesn't even feel that important. I think that's a huge problem. You can't have so much coming out that even the big deals no longer feel like a big deal. That's why I think Marvel at most should maybe put out like 3 movies, and if they put out any shows, like one just really, really good show. Like, put all your money, all your best people on just the one show, and just make sure it's really, really good. Because, again, all of these shows that are just like mid-quality are just diluting your audience, and it's making everyone not care about Marvel anymore.
There's been more MCU content in the last 2 years than the preceding 12 combined. A Marvel release used to feel like an event. Like
it used to.
See it. Nowadays,
it really did.
It's quite literally a weekly occurrence. So
I
of
know.
course people are going to be less excited for new installments like Secret Invasion, regardless of their quality. Don't worry, we're going to address the quality here in a second. What's worse, in their drive to Disney Plus, the mouse has lost out on a lot of money they probably didn't need to. Looking at the list of original films created and released by Disney, so many of them are going straight to Disney Plus without making any money in a theater.
Which is the other thing. I mean, I'm glad that Disney now seems to understand that they do need theaters, because for a minute there it seemed like Disney didn't think they needed theaters anymore. But they're by sending all of these movies to Disney Plus so soon after like going to theaters, you're cutting how much money that movie can make in theaters. So not only are you hurting theaters, but you're hurting yourself, because now you're making less money on the movie that you originally could have made a lot more money from, but you decided to put it straight to streaming like 6 weeks later, so people decided to wait, because if you know a movie's about to go on streaming, a number of people are going to just wait to watch it on streaming. I think that it's hurt their bottom line when it comes to their box office, and I think it's hurting theaters in general, which is hurting the entire industry. I think streaming was just really a giant mistake. I think streaming wound up being just a giant mistake for the whole industry. Ethereal Dragon says, even watching 3 CSI shows a year isn't 3,500 minutes. Wow, really? Like, all of CSI? Because CSI has a lot of episodes. That's impressive. If Marvel has made more content in the same time period as, like, 3 CSI shows, that's insane. Because there's so much CSI, it's crazy. Gianna says their 2019 success got to their heads. Oh, for sure. I definitely think they greenlit all this stuff because they thought after Endgame they just couldn't do anything wrong. And I think they're realizing right now that, oh, that was a mistake, because you definitely can do a lot wrong. But I think it's a little too late to realize that now. They're trying to course correct, but I think so much of the damage has already been done. I think, like I mentioned at the beginning of the stream, I think that's why a reboot is becoming more and more necessary.
This year alone, across all their studios, 6 of the 14 Disney films so far have premiered directly on Disney Plus or Hulu with no additional cost. In 2022, a whopping 27 premiered on streaming, and only 16 were in theaters. Now compare all that to 2018, the year before Disney Plus launched, where Disney released only 10 films total, all of which obviously went to the theaters. Not only do these streaming premieres mean that they're losing a lot of money from the theatrical window, but it becomes an even bigger issue when you combine it with our next major problem, budgeting. The budgets for so many.
I'm glad they're bringing up budgets, because this is an issue not just for Disney, but pretty much every studio, but Disney in particularly has been spending like a drunken sailor who doesn't want his money anymore. There's really no other way to describe it, because they've been giving like every movie a $300 million budget. I mean, why on earth did they make Haunted Mansion cost $160 million? And you know it's probably more than that, because they always underreport their budgets. It's probably more like $200 million, but let's just say $160. Why did they think that movie was gonna make back $160 million plus? The Haunted Mansion, yes, the ride is very, very popular, but why would you make that movie cost more than Dune? The Haunted Mansion, y'all, costs more than Barbie, it costs more than Oppenheimer, and it costs more than the upcoming Dune movie. The Haunted Mansion. That makes no sense. Oh, we got a new subscriber. Thank you for subscribing. It's insane. They need to bring down their budgets like by a lot. I think they should honestly cap most of their budgets to around 100 million. Maybe more if it's like a movie they know for sure, like for sure should be a hit. But again, even then, like no more than like 150. I think more than 150 and you're really getting into dangerous territory where you're needing to make like a ton of money just to break even. And I think they got to stop that because I think how much money overall each of these movies are going to make is probably going to be less. So they got to adjust for that. Am I losing anything? Am I getting too in the weeds with all of this? Let me know. Oh, Nicholas says, does the 100 million even show? That's a good point. That's a great point because these Disney Plus shows, like Secret Invasion, for example, is $212 million. That's how much that show cost. Yet, that show didn't look like it cost $212 million. So even if, you're right, you're absolutely right. I don't know, I feel like if Disney did just have to use 100 million and that's it, I feel like they've lost the ability to money manage so badly. I feel like 100 million would probably look like 20 million to them. You're absolutely right, because I don't know what they're doing with that money, but yeah, you're absolutely right. They make $200 million shows look like they were made on the CW. So what are they going to do with 100 million? I don't know, but they got to figure it out. Going back to the video.
Modern blockbusters, and especially those made by Disney, are just out of control. Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny cost $300 million to make. Guardians 3 and The Little Mermaid, $250 million each.
And again, they underreport all their budgets. This has already been come out. This has already been like confirmed from other articles. So Disney is saying these movies cost $250 million, but we all know it's like likely close to 300.
Quantumania, cool $200 mil. They even spent $150 million on Haunted Mansion. Why would you spend $150 million
exactly
on a Haunted Mansion?
Thank you.
It's probably more like $300 million if you include the marketing.
And I'm not even talking about marketing. Thank you. I was just talking about production budgets. But yeah, even the marketing, they also spend like another 150 million on top of that. So these movies they're spending like $300 to $400 million on each of these movies at this point. Each and every one. And now they're wondering why they're losing so much money. Well, maybe lower your budgets and you might make something. Maybe. Just a thought. The Modern Designer, thank you so much for the super chat. Really appreciate it. A new Disney movie used to be a must-see event. I know. Isn't it sad that it's not anymore? The next Disney movie that I can see being a must-see event has to be... Oh, Lala Kitty, thank you for subscribing to the channel. The next must-see event for Disney, I think, is probably Deadpool 3. And even then, as I've mentioned many times, I'm not 100% sold that Deadpool 3 is going to be like this billion-dollar hit. But I think that's their best chance. So, yeah, I think they need some more event films, and I think that somehow they've lost the ability of making them. So I think that's really sad.
Even Disney's animation wing isn't safe. Both Encanto and Strange World cost somewhere between $135 and $180 million to make. Well,
$135 million is not even that bad. Like, $135 million for Encanto is not even bad. Like, they should keep it more towards or around that range.
Of Pixar's latest releases put their budgets between 150 and 200 in range. Now, you might be looking at all those numbers and thinking, wow, that's a lot. But aren't all movies super expensive? And the answer is yes, but also no. Yeah, they cost hundreds of millions of dollars, but not that many hundreds of millions of dollars.
I know.
When you look at other massive blockbusters currently in theaters, most are not looking like this.
No, they're not. Exactly. Why Oppenheimer?
Cast an incredible experimental film.
Huge cast.
And it cost just $100 million.
$100 million. If you can have Oppenheimer with huge A-list director, A-list talent, all these effects, real practical effects, cost $100 million. Why is your Haunted Mansion movie costing $150? Seriously, I've seen Haunted Mansion. That movie does not look like it cost $150 million. Maybe it looked like it cost $50 million. That I would believe. But $150? Where did that extra 100 go? Because I didn't see it on screen, I gotta be honest. It looked like $50 million movie, which is how much it should have cost. not $150 million movie.
To make. John Wick 4, elaborate action sequences with top-tier stunt work and incredible set designs at multiple real-world locations.
So many
also
stunts.
Cost just $100 million.
$100 million, and they traveled all around the world with all of those stunts. And John Wick 4 only cost $100 million.
Barbie is the biggest movie of the summer. It has iconic art direction, detailed fictional worlds with real sets of A-list actors who enjoyed being there. And it was made for less than $150 million.
This movie, Barbie, was made for less than $150 million, and it's gonna make like $1.4 billion at the box office. So you don't need to spend $400 million on a movie to get a huge hit. So I don't understand why Disney seems to think that they have to spend so much on these movies anymore. Like, where is the money going? I don't understand. Gianna says, I feel like I should watch Haunted Mansion now. It's okay. It's very much okay. Like, don't get super excited about it. Don't think you're gonna watch, like, the best movie in the world or anything. It's solidly just okay. Kisaki says, I honestly dislike the recent art styles from the recent Disney Pixar movies. Me too. They're too squishy and remind me too much of Steven Universe. Yes, made me not want to watch them. I think Western animation has a style problem in general. I think that, as you mentioned, Steven Universe has inspired an entire art style, an entire generation to want to just do one art style, and it's that weird giant eyeball noodly bean face animation. You guys know what I'm talking about. I think it also originated from Tumblr, because if you look up Tumblr animation, you see a lot of that similar Western animation style that you see a lot. Yes, I think Disney and Pixar kind of do like the Disney version of that, and I have to agree with you. I'm not liking the art style. I think Western animation in general really needs to evolve their art style, which is why I really like the Across the Spider-Verse Puss in Boots art style, and lately in the new TMNT movie. I think we need to start doing more of that and less of the Tumblr animation. Fully agree. I'm glad you guys agree with me. Joshua Munn says, Barbie and Mario are the highest grossing movies this year. Is that good or bad thing? I like both of those movies, so to me, I think that's a good thing. I know a lot of critics really hated Barbie. I mean, not Barbie. They really hated Mario, though I liked Mario. I think Mario was overhated, to be honest. Going back to the video.
$1 million. Over on the animation side, the newly released Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles movie cost $70 million. Well,
$70 million!
The Last Wish and Across the Spider-Verse and the Super Mario Brothers movie were all at about $100 million each. All of these are half to a third of what Disney is paying to make their movies. And it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand that it's a lot easier to get back what you put in when you're only $70 million in the hole as opposed to $200 million.
$70 million for the new TMNT movie.
So expensive. Well, it's
$70 million. That's all it took. What? Again, it's hard not to be a conspiracy theorist, but, like, sometimes I'm like, maybe it is a money laundering scheme. Because, like, where is the money going? Where? I don't know.
It's complicated, and it ultimately comes down to a lot of different factors. An over-reliance on CGI, a push to develop new technologies, writing that just doesn't keep budgets in mind. But one of the biggest contributors to the inflation of a movie's budget over at Disney that a lot of people don't talk about are reshoots.
Yep.
A reshoot is where a film
glad he's talking about this as well.
To refilm scenes that didn't work, or to film new scenes.
Disney is notorious, particularly for being the one to want, like, countless reshoots and re-edits and reworks. They'll have visual effects artists completely, like, finish an entire scene, and then, like, a week or two before a movie comes out, they're like, oh, actually, we want you to redo this entire thing, but, like, change this one element. And then they make them do crunch time, where they don't get to really have a life. They're just spending, like, 24/7 at their job, basically, until it's done, because they wanted all these reshoots at the last minute. Again, all these studios are doing this. It's not just Disney. But Disney is by far one of the biggest offenders of this. And it's what's racking up their budgets, too. And probably why Haunted Mansion cost $150 million. Because I think there was a lot of reshoots on that one as well. Because every time you do reshoots, it just adds to the budget. I think they gotta stop doing that. They should lock down the script before they start filming. And then they won't have to do so many reshoots. But it's like, every time I hear about how a movie is made at Disney right now, especially with Marvel, It's like they don't even have a script when they start filming. It's like they're figuring it out as they're shooting the movie, and I think that is the wrong way to go about it.
Become needed as they get into the editing process. Don't get me wrong, reshoots are a perfectly normal part of production, and they can really help bring a movie together. A lot of very successful films have had reshoots. Back to the Future, E.T., Rocky, that's
reshoots aren't inherently bad. That's true.
What I'm talking about is when a movie studio sees the rough cut of a movie, gets cold feet, and then suddenly decides they basically need to start over from scratch. Probably the most famous example of this was with Zack Snyder's Justice League, but Disney, they too have been guilty of this a lot lately.
We all know what happened with the Justice League reshoots. I don't need to spell out the drama here. We all know what happened with that. But reshoots don't have to be inherently bad. I'm not saying reshoots are a bad thing. It's just that Disney definitely over-relies on them, and it drives up their budgets, and I also think it shows you just how much they don't care about the writing, because they don't think that the script is important enough to lock down before they start filming, which I think is so backwards. The script should be like the first thing that you lock down. The script is the most important thing. And that just shows you why all the writing is so bad, because they don't care about the writing at all. The script is like the last thing they think about, when it should be the first thing. I'm going to try to see if I can make this a little bigger for you guys. Hold on. Yeah. Just making it a little bigger. What do you guys think? I know I'm talking a lot. I want to hear your thoughts too, though. Ethereal Dragon says, overtime is definitely a major factor for the movie production costs. Yes, lots of overtime. It's bad for the people making the movie, and it's bad for you because it makes it cost more. So you gotta stop doing the overtime. It's too much. Lala Kitty says, the fact that TMNT cost $70 million is impressive. It is impressive. That shows you it's definitely possible. It's possible to make something cheaper. It's just I guess they're choosing not to? I don't know. Where is the money going?
Lately. Most publicly with Solo, A Star Wars Story. Originally, that movie was directed by Phil Lord and Chris Miller, the two guys behind Spider-Verse and the Lego Movie. But Disney didn't like what they saw, and so they hired Ron Howard to reshoot an estimated 80%
80%, y'all!
Thereby doubling its budget to somewhere
They
around
reshot 80% of this movie.
Now, as we all know, Solo did not do super well.
And it flopped anyway. They reshot 80% of that movie, made the budget go up to like $300 million without marketing, and the movie flopped anyway. That's why I don't understand why they keep doing all these reshoots, because it's not even like a guarantee that your movie's going to be better, and it's not a guarantee that it's going to make it a hit. All it's a guarantee is that it's going to make it more expensive. That's it. Disney CEO might be AI in the future. Probably. I think they should.
Grossed about $400 million worldwide.
Elijah says I don't even remember Solo.
Your original budget was just $125 million. But all the streaming and budgeting changes in the world are going to be useless if they continue to fail at our third main point, story.
Yep.
So many Disney films lately.
Disney feels so bad at story right now.
Worth telling, and that audience.
Thank you, Haunted Mansion. I'm glad he brought that up again. The story is the main issue with this film. It's just so like. I don't know, did they write the script in an afternoon? Did they just say, you know what, this is fine, let's just make some characters do some things in a building and, like, call it a movie? Because that's what this was. It was just the most uninspired, unoriginal thing, and it deserves the 6.3. It deserves lower, actually.
To hear. Disney keeps hoping that you can still slap a brand name onto something and it'll sell, but that just doesn't work anymore. Audiences aren't stupid. They can tell when a story is being told just because the bean counters think it's gonna make money. Like, who asked for Zootopia 2, Frozen 3, Inside Out 2, Toy Story 5?
Are you guys actually looking forward to any of these? Zootopia 2, Frozen 3, Inside Out 2, Toy Story 5? I actually am looking forward to a couple of these, but I don't think we need Toy Story 5. I've said that before, I'll say it again, I think Toy Story 5 is a mistake, and I think it will flop because of it. Bob Iger! Bob Iger! What? Bob Iger just sent me a super chat. Hello, Bob. Stop hating on Disney, guys. I'm sorry, Bob. Well, this is your fault. We're hating on it because of your decisions. Thank you, Bob Iger, for the super chat. What? Okay, it looks like none of you guys are interested in this. Yeah. So, you guys don't even want Frozen 3? Not even Zootopia 2? Okay, Lavenderina says only Zootopia 2 and Inside Out 2. Okay. So it seems like you guys are interested in most of the other ones, but not Toy Story 5. Jojo Rod Bob Iger has entered the chat. Literally, Joe. Literally. Josh Loves Movies says, okay, you're looking forward to everything but Toy Story 5. What else? Of course, Iger only gave $2. Stop, Wixo, stop. Jean Pedro says Zootopia and Inside Out have potential, but I don't trust Disney with the sequels. Yeah, I agree. The sequels tend to not be great. Way too many sequels. Way too many.
All of those are real movies that are happening in the near future, even though it feels like that list should be a parody. But making
it does feel like a parody.
Is just the tip of the iceberg. Disney also doesn't understand where their stories fit anymore. Look no further than the Eternals, which introduced a dozen new characters and
remember when they thought the Eternals was gonna be like an Oscar-winning movie that fans and critics alike would go crazy for? Remember when Kevin Feige was like, Eternals is gonna get nominated for an Oscar. It's gonna get Best Picture nominations. Remember that? Oh boy, did not pan out. Not at all.
1,000 years of backstory into a 2-hour film. Why wasn't this?
Joshua doesn't want any of those movies to happen.
Time to breathe. Meanwhile, they're clearly stretching out stories that don't need to be TV shows. The Obi-Wan series is a great example of this.
Could have been a movie.
There's a really strong core narrative there about Obi-Wan's relationship.
A lot of these shows could be movies. They've even admitted, I think Kevin Feige himself admitted that what they're doing with a lot of these shows is they're literally just like, they're taking a movie and drawing it out over like 6 episodes. And we can tell, because it feels like a stretched out movie, not an actual like episodic television series. And I think that's a huge mistake. Stella says sequels are better than the live action adaptations. I actually agree with that. I think the adaptations are so bad. I would rather just have sequels to the originals. I agree with that. Yachari says the Eternals as is. The toys are eternally on shelves. They're still selling the stuff in Ollie's and can't get rid of them. It's not the kind of movie that sells toys. Like, it's so weird to me that Disney allowed Eternals to be the kind of movie that it is. It's like they allowed Chloe Zhao to try to make like Marvel's version of an indie film, and that's just not what Marvel is. Like, who wants to watch that? And I don't think kids are gonna want to watch or want to buy action figures from a movie that was as solemn and gray as that one. I just don't think that movie was like engineered to sell toys, and most movies shouldn't be like made to engineered. Movies shouldn't be made to sell toys. That's not what I'm saying. But Marvel, given the fact that it is such a commercial brand, you would think that that would be important to them, and Eternals was just not that. So I'm not surprised Eternals toys aren't selling. Are we ever gonna see Harry Styles again? Like, what happened with Harry?
Quests and subplots. And hey, wouldn't you know it, Obi-Wan was originally written to be a 2-hour film that they decided to turn into a 6-hour series. If you want a super recent example, Secret Invasion. Which, man, I have no idea what Marvel was thinking.
Also terrible.
Let's take this iconic storyline from the comics with an Avengers-level threat and adapt it into a spy thriller with basically no spying, no thrills, and no Avengers. What should have been this
again, I watched the first episode and I couldn't finish.
I mean, who doesn't love themselves a good imposter storyline? Became yet another piece of wasted potential content to further dilute the MCU brand on Disney+.
Everything I heard about Secret Invasion was bad. Literally terrible. Anyone actually watch Secret Invasion here? Free Rocket Man called it a boring show. That's what I heard. It was mostly just boring. I watched the first episode, like I said, and I thought it looked very, very cheap and very, very boring, so not surprised. Nicholas says it was a letdown. Yeah. Seems like most people felt that way. It's really a shame. There was so much promise there that they could have done with this.
A lot of content all at once just to keep us on the digital treadmill.
It could have been a movie.
Start to see patterns. They see the trends, the formulas that you're using. For example, why have so many big tentpole Disney releases lately had a main character becoming jaded just because they lost a loved one?
This is another trope that's old.
Luke Skywalker, Indiana Jones, Obi-Wan Kenobi.
Why do they keep doing this to their heroes? And the thing is, it's like never received well. Like, has any of these incarnations, any of these iterations of these characters been received well? Every time they bring back one of these old favorites, they make them like worn out and tired and depressed and like they hate their lives, and you're like, why would I want to watch an entire series around a hero who's this miserable? Like, why do they keep doing this? It's never received well.
Heck, even Haunted Mansion and Secret Invasion, which you probably should know because why would you ever bother to see those things? This generation of stories has seen our fictional heroes become miserable.
I know.
And let's be real, that is not something that fans
I don't know why they keep doing it when so many people complain about it.
They inspired us for a reason. Seeing them crushed under the same depression of reality that we real people face every day is not fun. Sure, it might be more...
Disney, it's like they forgot how to make hopeful, optimistic movies. All of their movies are like told from such a cynical point of view. It's like, oh, your life, even when you're old, is never going to work out. You're always going to feel like dejected and like things didn't work out for you. Like, why would you want to watch a movie like that? Especially in 2023 when it seems like the world's falling apart. Like, who wants to go to the theater to see something like that? I think they really got to make these movies like less like trauma porn. You know what I mean?
Realistic to see a disillusioned Indiana Jones, but audiences go to the movies to escape from reality, to believe in something better.
It's like they hate their characters,
to
exactly.
have something to hope for and aspire to, and Disney is no longer providing those hopeful messages. So that's a lot of doom and gloom, right? Is there any way that Disney, and really the entire film industry, can fix
Ruru says they want us to be miserable. It's true.
YouTube channel. What I mean to say is that they need to program their slate of movies just like you do a YouTube channel.
He makes a really good point here where he talks about I'm gonna skip this one section because he talks about YouTube for a lot, but he basically just says that studios should program their content like a YouTube channel would, where they would I guess you would post certain types of videos at certain times or whatever, and I think he has a great point, how he's saying like you have to program things that people want to watch. Essentially, you can't just kind of throw things out there and hope it sticks. You gotta space things out well. He makes this one point I want to get to. Where is it? Yeah, right here.
Algorithm decides that people no longer
talking about the algorithm.
Apply this concept to Disney and you immediately see what they have to do with their IP. When you have back-to-back disappointments line up, like in Marvel's recent roster, it creates a downward spiral that's pretty hard to break in the public consciousness. But if you mix in one or two goods with the bad strategically, suddenly it's much harder to craft a doom and gloom narrative. Here's an example programming lineup. Multiverse of Madness.
This is what I'm talking about.
Guardians 3, Love and Thunder, Quantumania. That looks a lot different from what really happened, where Guardians 3 appeared at the end.
He's basically saying Marvel should have mixed around their releases so that the ones that would have been better received were not at the very end, so we didn't have like a string of disappointments back to back, which I think is important. And I think that Marvel made a mistake by putting Thor Love and Thunder and Quantumania back to back. Like, two movies they had to have known would not have been received well. That was a mistake. That was a mistake.
The real release order gave you 4 disappointments in a row before you got a small pick-me-up with the generally well-received Guardians. But if Guardians had been in the middle, the disappointments are suddenly broken up. There's a gap there. The lackluster movies on the other side of it, it's just
he's making a great point here. Basically just talking about how they should have released their movies in a different order. And I think he's absolutely right. Had they released it in a different order, it could have made all the difference in the world. What do you guys think about this? Yes, Bob Iger was here. Why is Walt Disney here? What? Is everyone coming in with, like, pretending to be different celebrities? What's happening? Why is Walt Disney in the chat now? Oh, Walt, you caused the freezing delay earlier? Okay, thank you, Walt. Why? Okay. Joshua Munn says, can you get them to cancel Snow White remake? Are you guys over this video? It is very, very long. Sorry this live stream is going on for so long. It wasn't supposed to, but then, of course, I had stupid tech issues. Apologize for that as well. Ethan says, Black Panther 2 was good. I don't know what y'all are smoking. It was okay. I liked it more than, like, the Thor movie and Quantumania, for sure. I just think that the Wakanda Forever was not as good as the first one, and it wasn't as well received, so I think that's why it's generally, like, talked about negatively. Crystal says, I heard Black Panther 2 is good, but I didn't hear any bad news. It is good. I think it's good. Uchari says, the problem is, I think the studios may not have thought these flops were going to be flops. Oh, yeah. definitely. As I said earlier, I think most of this stuff was greenlit when they thought Marvel couldn't flop, when they thought Marvel could do no wrong. So they probably couldn't see this in hindsight, but really they should have. They should have known. They should have known. They should have been able to look at Quantumania, for example, and been able to tell that movie was a piece of crap. The fact that they couldn't do that is really, really scary, because it makes me question their taste a bit. Like, if Kevin Feige looked at Quantumania and was like, yes, this is a work of art that is releasable and everyone will love it, I will seriously question Kevin Feige's taste. You know? I just hope that they didn't think that. They should focus on quality more. Ethereal Dragon says, the Snow White who looks nothing like how the story describes her. We'll talk about Snow White a lot, probably later. I don't think the Snow White story is going away anytime soon, unfortunately. They're probably going to end up putting that Snow White movie on Disney+. That's my prediction. I don't think that's going to go to theaters. Alright. He did just go over the 3 issues, the story, budget, and streaming for Disney. It looks like you guys don't really care about reacting to this video, so I'm going to end reacting to this video here. If you want to finish the video, please go to the Film Theorist channel. They're a really good channel. They make a lot of good videos. I highly recommend going and watching their content and subscribing. But yes, they brought up a lot of good stuff. We talked about the issues with streaming. I think their stuff is too expensive. I think a lot of their stories are repetitive and not very interesting. Disney just has a litany of issues, basically. I'm just going to open up this section to just any questions that you want. Sorry, this stream was... Again, I apologize for the tech issues. I wish it had not happened, but at least we were able to continue the stream and finish it anyway. Thank you everyone who comes here every day. I really appreciate you guys. You guys are so great. Any questions you have? Well, like Kitty says, Snow White is going to flop. Yeah, I think if they do send it to theaters, I think it's definitely going to flop. I honestly think they should send it to Disney Plus just to save embarrassment at this point. Oh, Elijah, you like the stream. I'm glad. Yes, this is the Q&A yellow umbrella. Mr. Pizza says, Snow White actress says she deserves $1 billion. Did she say that? I didn't see that. Did she say the movie needs to make $1 billion? I don't think it's gonna make $1 billion. I don't even think this movie would have made $1 billion with a different actress. I don't think Snow White's popular enough to be $1 billion. I'm glad you like the stream. Yes, I have seen Marvel using AI in their new show. They used it for Secret Invasion. And I'm sure that's not the last time they're going to use AI. I'm sure we'll see it again at some point, probably soon. Maybe even in Loki Season 2, I could see that happening. I actually have a theory that Marvel and Disney overall is already using AI in pre-development. Because a lot of their shots, like their background shots, like I noticed this in a clip of Ahsoka I saw on Twitter earlier today, where I've seen so much AI art at this point that I can just kind of tell the look of it. And it looks like a lot of the backgrounds, a lot of like the sets and stuff just looks like an AI designed it. Like Disney's already using AI to come up with concept art. Because that's what it looks like. It looks like AI designed a lot of like the backgrounds and sets that they're using in recent episodes of things. Has anyone else noticed that? I definitely feel like they're using AI already. Because I can kind of tell. Am I gonna have the Loki McDonald's meal? No, I don't really eat McDonald's. Their food is gross to me. Oh, thank you, Nicholas. That's very, very kind of you. Thank you again, Prince. Also, like and subscribe. Subscribe so you never miss a live stream, and please like the video because it just helps the video and the channel in general. I'll take like 2 more questions, and that'll be the end of the live stream for today. I'll see you tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, as always. Again, thank you everyone who came today. I apologize for all the difficulties. Hopefully tomorrow, nothing goes wrong. Fingers crossed. Oh, Joshua says, have you heard that AI apparently can't be copyrighted? Yes, and that's not actually new news. I have briefly mentioned this before in another live stream. That's why studios aren't planning to just, like, use AI to create an entire AI script. They want a human to come in and, like, change it up a bit so that it can pass for copyright. So this copyright decision isn't really, like, news. This was actually decided like a couple months ago. It's just the fact that they're gonna have to change it up enough so that they can claim like there was enough human involvement that they can copyright it. That's why I don't think the studios are gonna use everything entirely AI. It's gonna be humans using AI. But they're still planning to use it. I don't think this stops anything. I don't think this prevents like the studios being able to use it. It's like, as I said before, they're just going to have humans come in and change it enough so it passes for copyright, which was always the plan anyway. All right, one more question and that's it. Kisaki says, why can't Disney just go back to being good? I hope it does. Genuinely, as a Disney adult, I guess, as someone who grew up with those movies and really loved them as a kid, I want them to be on top again. I really do. It sucks that they're so down and out right now. I hope they turn things around, but I think they're going to have to look at themselves in the mirror and take a hard look at themselves. I think that is the only way that they're going to turn things around. And until then, I don't think anything's going to change. But yeah, that's what I think. Thank you everyone for coming to the live stream today. I'll see you guys tomorrow at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This has been great, and I'll see you then. Bye!